recording. How's this camera setup working? Still kind of cuts off my head a little bit. Let me do a little something about that. Just a little something. How that? No, that's still not doing it. Put that down there. Crank that over here. Okay, how are we looking on that? You know what? Let's try adjusting the zoom. How's that? Okay, there we go. Yeah, that'll work. And I'm a little bit out of focus there, but that's not bad. Okay, and if I lean in, my head doesn't get cut off anymore. All right, that's pretty much what I'm looking for. Okay, so anyway, I figured I would change things up a little bit. So we've got Gar up behind me because I've been hanging around Pink Who Paints streams a lot the last week. He's fairly inspirational. He gets me thinking about a lot of stuff, gets me working on a lot of stuff, turned me on to an anime called Blue Period that was really good, really enjoyed it. And just in general, it's been fun hanging around his community. So, maybe check him out and give him a look. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. Not that anybody watches my videos, but hey, you never know. Maybe I'll get you like 2 subscribers or something. Anyway, let's go ahead and clean up the tablet here. There we go. And I have been doing a lot of stuff because I've been hanging around my boys' streams. I've just sat here with this same file open and just done a buttload of experimentation with stuff. I started out with the composition and started thinking about putting wrinkles in cloth. And what I was really after with that was finding a way to use the fingertip smudge tool. And then I started thinking maybe I could use that to do terrain. And I was experimenting with cloak designs. I was watching Frieren Journey's End at this point. So I was kind of looking at those designs, and I was thinking about terrain, and I was thinking about the form of terrain, and I was trying to find a way to do something that kind of looks like Monet's work in the Olive Gardens at Moreno, which, if you've been watching my streams for a while, you know I really love Monet's work. And my mom really loves Monet's work, so I kind of come by it honestly. And I did sort of kind of get some terrain stuff moving, and then I did some value studies on trees. And then after that, I did some posing and dynamics and looked at some anatomy and faces and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I did all week. And hey, presto, you can see that that's like right where we are now. Is right where I left off. And I just deleted all of that because who the fuck cares? And anyway, I've given no thought to what I'm going to talk about tonight, but there is something that I kind of sort of have been thinking about, which is the vast array of things that you need to learn to be able to progress in art. Well, to progress to the point that I'm trying to get to anyway. And that vast collection of things takes a really, really long time to get anywhere with. Because I'm working in kind of a semi-realism style here because why not? I'm just not even being serious about it. But let's get those proportions fixed. Made these eyes a little bit too big. Grab this. I've been playing with the selection pen here, and it's actually pretty good in terms of getting things moved around where I wanted to be, and taking care of stuff like that. We're on vector eraser, right? And we're not on a vector layer, so may as well just go to the clear pencil. So anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff that you need to learn in order to get the kind of stuff that I'm trying to do done. And part of that is that I'm being fairly ambitious about what I'm doing, as I'm trying to get character design and background design both into my skill set. And that's fairly difficult to manage. Let's see. Anything specific I wanted to say? There's not really anything specific I wanted to say. I've been kind of screwing around. Well, I've been watching Dungeon Meshi today, like a lot of Dungeon Meshi, and there's a bunch of stuff that I've been thinking about this week. I suck at doing ears. A lot of people do it fairly simply. You just kind of start with a little swoop, then do another little swoop on the inside and a third little swoop there. That works. But, well, you should try to do like the little Y shape in there. Inside of your ear, there's kind of a little Y shape. So it kind of does that. But there's lots of different kinds of ears too, so I'm never really particularly concerned about ears. Tend to make necks too short. Something I need to work on, so let's try to fix that somewhat there. Got the clavicle comes around there, and the clavicle comes around there, and here's sort of the pit of the neck. And the real definition in when you turn your head, a lot of people don't realize this, but because the head is attached at the neck by these two muscles that go like this, when you turn your head this direction, this muscle is what pulls. It pulls down, and that causes this side of the head to swivel around. So it's this muscle right here that becomes taut. Okay? So as this head turns this direction, it's this muscle here that's going to tighten. And as it turns this direction, it's this muscle here that's going to tighten. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna like fuck around and stuff and see what comes to my mind, see what actually springs to mind that I can discuss as I do this. Watching other streamers really sort of underscores what you're doing well and what you're not, because you see what they do differently and you go, Is it better the way I do it? Is it better the way they do it? And Pinku Paints is generating a lot more finished work than I am. And he's just basically, he's going in and he's drawing something beginning to end. And I'm not really doing that. I'm just kind of coming in here and just fucking around, talking about stuff that I've been thinking about over the last week. And just generally not being especially focused. So, I don't know. The purpose of these streams is just to get me to practice. That's what this is for. I have this stream because as long as I have this stream, it means that at least one day out of the week, I'm going to go draw. And having the deadline really kind of keeps me honest in that respect. We were talking about simplification during his stream today, and I was just going, simplifying really makes a big difference. Like, you can tell just from this very quick little sketch, these two eyes right here, just put two circles, those are eyes. And when I do that, that's a nose right here, like an animal's nose. And that's a little animal's mouth right there. And this could be any number of animals. All I got to do is put a head on it, like this. And you go, oh, well, what kind of animal is this? It could be a cat. It could be a dog. It could be a bear. It's fairly simple to make the animal look like all kinds of different things. All you have to do is change the shape of the ears. And that's fairly simple to do. You can do all kinds of things. You can just you can come over here, you can put a fishtail on it. Now, it's kind of silly to suggest that a fish looks like this, but that's a fish. That looks like a fish. And there are all of these iconic things that you can do. Iconification is a process that can make simple drawings look far more complicated. And it's one of the things that we naturally try to do. But don't always do a great job of. Like this is fairly obviously some kind of canine. Even before I get into much of the actual head shape. Because we know what a canine's mouth looks like. However, I can fairly easily turn this into some type of feline by just giving it the appropriate features. If I give it a slightly different look. We're always trying to iconify things. I do things like say, okay, this is fairly obviously a friendly stuffed animal. What kind of friendly stuffed animal? Well, give it some ears. What kind of ears do you want to give it? Things like this are fairly useful. Thinking about perspective earlier today. was thinking in particular about deep perspective, about looking at things from extreme angles. And I've kind of talked about this before, but really, you hear people talk about a 1 point and 2 point perspective, and 1 point perspective where you've got like, here's your building and here's your other building, and you're looking down the street, and the street goes to a vanishing point, and all of the lines of the buildings also go to that vanishing point. If there's another building here, well, that building, that goes to the vanishing point. This building goes to the vanishing point. All of those go there. But this is not really 1 point perspective. What it is a special case, because this face of this building is facing directly towards you. It's flat. Now, if we were to have over here another building, okay, and it were turned just a little bit, if you rotate that building, well, that building now has to be in 2 point perspective. Can't be in 1 point perspective because you've rotated it. And you run into this same kind of thing all the time. If you have a building here and it's not facing directly towards you, that's got to be in 2 point perspective. And it's the same thing here. If you take another building and you just go, okay, we're going to take this building and we're going to rotate it just a little bit to the side. Well, now you've got a different perspective, and you've got 2 vanishing points. And on top of that, these only have 2 vanishing points because these are straight up and down. That's a special case scenario. If you tilt the front of the building just a little bit, if the building tilts because it's falling down for whatever reason, well, now all of the different sides have to go to a vanishing point. And the thing about all of this is, if you start with like a little sort of triple line right there, all of these 3 lines go to the same point. All of these 3 lines here, those go to the same point. And all of these 3 lines here, they also go to the same point. Now, what you do in 1 point perspective is, in 1 point perspective, you cheat and have one side, well, this is at 90 degrees. And that's a magic angle there. Things don't look distorted. And this is also at 90 degrees, which, again, magic angle, so things don't look distorted. But looking past that, you get at least 1 vanishing point right there. Okay? And as you rotate it to the side right here. If this were straight up and down, you still have those 2 sides going to a vanishing point. You still have those 2 sides going to a vanishing point. But the only reason these 3 don't go to a vanishing point is because they're 90-degree vertical to the ground, because they're plumb. And if you change that even a little bit, if you tilt it towards you, then they all go to a vanishing point. If you tilt it away from you, you have the same situation. It still goes to a vanishing point. And the same thing here. These right here, they all go to the same vanishing point. And these 3 here all go to the same vanishing point. But you're always drawing in what amounts to 3 point perspective until you get to curvilinear perspective, and you've got 4 and 5 and 6 points, and you're doing fisheye distortion and stuff like that. I'm nowhere near understanding that stuff. And I've looked a lot at how to deal with measuring points. I've looked a lot at how to deal with measuring points on perspective grids, but I've basically lost my confidence in being able to explain them because there's an aspect of this. Measuring points in 2 point perspective, which is like that magical special case where things are straight up and down. Measuring points in 2-point perspective, fairly easy to explain. There's only one problem. Measuring points in 3-point perspective. Oh, these are a nightmare. These are an absolute nightmare when you're measuring exactly how tall everything is supposed to be. And that's one of the things that kind of concerns me, is being able to do stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, but if I jump back to my little layout here, which is where I was figuring out how I was going to lay out this particular image. Here's a problem. Here I've got a guy who is kneeling in front of a door, okay? But if this guy stood up, if we projected, okay, he's going to stand up, and we're going to take his body right here. Let me create a new layer, and we'll draw his body right here. And we'll draw his head right here, the way he's laid out. And now I will move that layer, and I will go, what if we straightened out his leg? What if, instead of his leg being bent, what if he was standing up? He can't fit through the door. I made him too tall to fit through the door. Or put it another way, I made the door too small. Like way too small. The door needed to be substantially bigger so you would actually be able to fit through it. Like maybe not that big. But it needs to be at the very least tall enough for an average man to fit through it. And unless I'm trying to draw Wilt fucking Chamberlain here, and this is the kind of thing I run into all the time. And then on top of that, I've got this person over here at the window, and it's like, how tall is this person? If we project over and we just go, she's as tall standing up as he is kneeling down. And then we've got these other people over here. We got these other people that are standing up, and they're the same height as him kneeling down. And it's ridiculous. The proportion thing is a complete mess. And that's one of the reasons that I get really worried about perspective and about measuring points. I catch myself doing this dumb crap all the time, and then I get frustrated. I want to throw the thing out, and I don't want to finish it, you know? And I don't know if I'm ever going to do anything with this. There were a couple of images that kind of struck me. I was reading Lord Dunsany's The House of the Sphinx, and I was kind of hitting on all of the little things that struck me about it. The house, the dark, the deed, the cloak, the Sphinx, the door, the concept of they. Who are they? It's never really clarified in the story. And really, when you read Dunsany and you think about Lovecraft was trying so hard to be Dunsany and failing really, really badly. And that's not a whole lot of shade to throw on Lovecraft, because Dunsany is brilliant. Dunsany has all of these amazing things. He had this one story, I can't remember the title of it. It was like one's mind goes farther in dreams than it does by day. Wandering one night by moonlight, I came to the edge of hell. The place was foul with cinders and cast-off things and buried half-broken edges of sharp things, and I saw a great angel there building in plaster and steel. I wondered what he did in that dreadful place. And it's just, in a couple of sentences, Dunsany pulls you into this world, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? But he did that so well, and he did that so many times in so many different ways. And it's really fascinating to look at how he does that. And then you look at Lovecraft, you see him just kind of clumsily try to do that when he's like, ooh, the monster's indescribable. He doesn't do a very good job. He tries to be like Dunsany, but more something, and he just ends up being something entirely different. I've really started to regard Lovecraft as a great visionary with fantastic ideas, but a terrible writer. Oh my God, what an awful writer. Don't get me started on his dialogue, jeez. But I have no idea what I'm trying to talk about here. I don't even know what I'm trying to talk about here. Not only do I not know what I'm talking about, I don't know what I'm trying to talk about. I don't know. Let me kind of browse through here. This is where I was working with trying to get the shadows on a cloak. Okay? By starting with a line of shadow at the bottom and then just taking the fingertip blend brush and pulling it upward. Kind of pulling the shadows up and going, here are the folds in the cloak. And it kind of looks like the folds in a cloak, but what I came to the conclusion of is it's really hard to control. And because it's really hard to control, you can't quite give the cloak quite the body and form that it ought to have. But it does give you an interesting effect, and because it gives you an interesting effect, and I was thinking the effect does kind of look organic, but it's not good enough for something that actually has form. Like, you know what a cloak's supposed to look like, and this ain't it. Okay, this is not the way the wrinkles in a cloak are supposed to look. I mean, it's not bad. It's a thing you can work with, I suppose, but I really wasn't liking the results. And I experimented with it a little more, but what I got to thinking about was it looks more organic. It looks more like you're dealing with dirt. And if you're dealing with like dirt, then you could get a certain feel with it. But where this really started to come into its own was right here. Now, what I did with this was I started with a kind of big brown area, okay? And I said, here's the contour of my big brown area right here. And I was looking at Monet's Olive Grove at Moreno. So let me back up a little in my reference collection here, and yeah, I was looking at this bit right here. This is the full painting right here. You can see up in this little vicinity right here, and the full painting has this area of landscape down on the side, and I was just kind of going, okay, if I grab my eyedropper tool and I go that right there, and I just kind of jump in here, I take a fairly small brush and I use the opacity brush and just kind of dot in some red right in here. I go, there's going to be a red area over here, and then we'll go. Okay, let's do a little kind of white area there, and then we'll do kind of like this bluish gray. We'll sort of dot that in over here, and maybe we'll have up along the top we'll have some of this sort of light green maybe, and I just kind of dotted in this stuff, and then I go, okay, so let's take the fingertip blend, and we'll start by going, all right, we're going to define sort of this top area, and we're going to fuzz that around and just kind of make it more or less a single shade. It'll have some variation and some modeling, but there's going to be more or less a kind of little grassy area. And you can just grab the areas you go, oh, that's not the color I want. I want to bring that color over here. And just kind of drag it around, move it where you want it to go. And then down here on the next one, you just sort of, you trace the contour again. Get that. And now what we want to do is we still want to trace the contour, but we are now tracing it along the edge. So this is the edge of our little landmass. And we want to go around and say, here's the edge as we're going out and down the area. Just kind of pull these bits out to the edges where we want them. And they kind of mix in together. And then from here, now we follow the contour vertically. And we can go up and we can go down and we can start down here at the bottom. And just kind of pull all those bits in. Let you just sort of pull that color where you want it to go. And that gives you a certain organic feel to it. But it still doesn't have the right feeling. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel correct yet. And I just kept working over it and working over it and working over it. And the thing is that as you work it, as you do this, you're kind of doing the same job that erosion and rainfall does, to kind of pull and move the colors around. The same way that natural processes would pull and move the dirt around. And it doesn't do a bad job of producing like something. On top of that, you can sort of pull a grassy edge down and around over here. Now, I'm not sure how well this really works or what good it's going to be, but it's an experiment I've been working with. And I don't know, maybe any of you guys watching can like go and have a look at this and go, maybe it'll work for me. Maybe it'll do something that I find useful. I'm not having the greatest of luck with it, but it is something I was experimenting with. It is something that I messed around with and tried to do something, and I don't know, maybe I did something. Maybe not. I did also experiment with some additional settings, like if you take your color stretch and you make it really long, then it can just like keep going forever. But I'm not sure what I would do with that. It is, however, the same thing that I was doing when I started doing my value studies on trees. I started doing my value studies on trees. I started out, this was just like the hard round brush, which is typically what I work with. And I would just do the trunk of the tree and the roots of the tree and the branches of the tree. And this is the opacity brush and not my standard line brush. Then I do that, and then I go, okay, now let's light this with pure white, and we'll go, okay. Here's where the light goes. The light, here's the light. Here's the light. Here's the light. Let's pull some light up the trunk of the tree. Right up in there. And that's kind of what I was doing to start with, but then I started going, well, wait, what if I experiment with using the fingertip smudge tool on this? And I kind of got this situation, and then I got this situation. I kind of like the look of this. It looks really creepy. And then I got bored with value studies, and I did like this sort of semi-action pose. A guy preparing to launch a kick, apparently a side kick of some sort. But I got to thinking about where the bones sit inside of the frame with this, because that's important. And thinking about the bones, of course, led me to thinking about other aspects of anatomy, thinking about the way that the upper body fits together, thinking about the rib cage. And then I got to thinking about how everything fits together on a face. And I think that's where I left off, is really with that sort of stuff. I don't know that I could really put my finger on anything that I learned over this past week in particular. But I experimented a lot, and I think the experimenting was really valuable. So, kind of the thought process I'm going with here is, I think you need somebody who's somewhere near your skill level to sort of follow around and resonate with. Because if you try to follow somebody who's nowhere near your level, somebody who's like crap, you're not going to learn anything from them, and they're not going to like hanging around you, because they're going to be in the opposite situation where they're hanging around somebody who's much better than they are. And when you're hanging around somebody who's much better than you are, you can't use most of the advice they give you. That drives me nuts. That's probably the most frustrating thing, is when somebody who's a much better artist than you are says, hey, why don't you work on this thing? And you know that's a thing you need to work on, but you also know that before you work on that, you need to learn 4 things you don't know. That's really frustrating. But yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I'm scattered and unfocused and undirected this week, which is normal. And I am thinking about a lot of stuff, and when I kind of sit here and I go, hey, you know, what should I be doing? What should I be working on? I have no fucking clue, because it's like the only real, like, the only real thing that I've been working on lately has been the it's been the whole lamppost thing. This picture that I was working on. And I have not gotten much farther on that, and there's a bunch of stuff I still need to do with it. Let me fire up a new layer and just kind of make some annotations here. I need to work on actually painting in this lamppost and getting it to look the way that I want it to look. And I need to to think about how to render the moon somewhat. I could probably just cut and paste a photo, but I don't want to do that. And I need to get more detail into Chio, who's up here perched on this lamppost. But yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I need to do. And I'm just not doing it. None of it's really beyond me. I mean, this dress is really ornate, and it's going to take some work. But I don't know. This is the last thing that I was working on, and I've got other things that I want to work on. I've got other things that I want to do, but planning it out has just been a sort of nebulous concept. I do want to get some finished pieces made. I do want to get kind of some I do want to get some things out there, and I want the pieces I finish to feel like they tell a story, which a lot of people's stuff doesn't. And I just think it's really, really important for there to be some kind of story you're in the middle of, because if there's no story behind the piece, I just don't feel like it's that interesting. I want to feel like something is happening, like you're communicating something. That's one of the things that they covered extensively in Blue Period that I don't see a lot of people talk about lately, and I don't hear a lot of people discuss, and that is the notion of your work should be saying something. And I feel like an immense quantity of art these days just says, look how cute. It's not much of a thing to say. And there's a lot of art that says, look how good I am at art. I don't think look how good I am at art is something that needs to be said. I think if you're saying look how good I am at art, you're not very good at art. But that is me. That is me having opinions about things. And I want to make scenes. I want it to feel like something has happened and you're observing the middle of it. I want that to be like I want that to be the purpose, like you're in the middle of a story. As if it's an illustration from a novel or a short story or a video game or a frame of animation from a TV show. I want it to feel like something was happening before this and something's going to happen after this. And when you can make that nebulous, when you can say, it's not exactly clear what happened before this, but it is clear that you're in the middle of something. Something has happened, and something's going to happen. And if both of those things are semi-ambiguous, I think that gives people the most to think about. So that's kind of the direction I want to go with these things. And I like horror, so it would be scary stuff that's going on. But I'm not in a position where I'm doing that yet. I'm not good at setting the scene. Setting the scene is a common thing. This is the same thing I did with the Pecora image where I was doing where did it go? I had a thing I was working on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this one where Usada Pecora is leaping off of the balcony at you, and I never finished that one. There is this kind of recurring theme of somebody's going to get you. Someone is coming for you, and they are going to get you. And that's one of the big things. One of the big themes that I like to explore in my art, or like to try to explore in my art, rather. I don't think I actually explore much of anything right now, but regardless, I'm gonna jump on out of here, and do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And I'll see you next week, I guess. Okay, bye.